Erik McKinney here with Darrell, Rideaux, and we're at the Coliseum for USC's last home game of the season, the rivalry game for the victory bell against UCLA, crosstown showdown, and Kedon Slovis and this USC offense, they go nuts in a 52-35 win over UCLA. And take a second, I'm going to go over some of the records and some of the numbers. It's going to take a while. Kedon Slovis sets a USC record for passing yards in a game, 515. That breaks Matt Barkley's record. He had 493 in 2012 against Arizona. 4 USC wide receivers go over the 100-yard mark in receiving yards. That's the first time that's happened at USC, and here they are. Drake London, he has a game-high 142 yards, a touchdown on 8 catches. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 catches, 128 yards. Tyler Vaughn's 6 catches, 106 yards and a touchdown. Michael Pittman, 13 catches, 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. Okay, let's hear it. The offensive performance against UCLA.
I mean, you talked about it. You know, Kedon Slovis, week in and week out, has just done nothing but get better. His command, his understanding of the offense makes him virtually, as a true freshman, regarded as an offensive coordinator on the field. He and Graham Harrell are definitely seeing the field the same way. But what I like most about today's game plan is the body shots that they took to UCLA. They really attacked the middle of the field, really kind of forcing UCLA to have to defend the interior part. And then as UCLA started making adjustments defensively, what did they do? They started getting Pittman and Vaughns involved on the outside. I really love this game plan because it really spoke to the maturation of this offense. But we're finally got an opportunity to kind of see it within a running game as a complementary piece. You had a healthy Vavai Malapai, a Stephen Carr who showed out at times. And then you still got a little bit of Kristen, although his role was marginalized to the veterans. You still like the fact that they had an inside running attack that really proved to keep this defense off balance for UCLA, and the offense really kind of took command and charge.
Yeah, I mean, what Kedon Slovis did, and you heard Graham Harrell say after the game, they ran some coverages that allowed us to throw the ball. It feels like at this point, any coverage, anytime anybody throws defenders out of the field, it's a coverage that allows Kedon Slovis to throw the ball.
Yeah.
What have you seen from him over the course of the season? And again, this is a guy who kind of, his first start is against Stanford, where he kind of goes nuts. So this is something that, in terms of numbers, maybe you don't expect 515, but from the very beginning, this is a little bit of what you've expected from Kedon. What have you seen from him? I guess when you first saw him this year, how has he kind of progressed to this point, and where do you see the future for a guy like Kedon Slovis?
Erik, I remember as camp started, there was a competition of 4 quarterbacks, from a guy who's not in this program anymore, Jack Sears, to Matt Fink, JT Daniels, and then I just remember keep asking you, dude, who is this guy? How do I pronounce his name? You know, a virtual freshman, you thought he was just an add-on, maybe a clipboard holder throughout the season, but then something started to click. You see that he was anointed to the backup to JT Daniels, and you're wondering, okay, how is this possible? It was his ability to hit those intermediate throws. And while other quarterbacks in this program at the time were scrambling and retreating and abandoning the offensive game plan, it was Slovis that took command of it and was hitting those intermediate routes. And that's what this offense called for. Throughout the season, early on, as his career took off, he pressed a little bit. But I think that he began to understand that I got far too much talent around me for me to have to kind of play hero ball. Once he started to become a distributor and a point guard, but not necessarily a game manager, because he still takes his shots when opportunities present itself. But it's his ability to manipulate the pocket, extend plays with his feet, and really find windows that weren't there. He threw a clutch play to Drake London where he literally turned his body to manipulate, to keep the safety at bay, hits London on a dime, and then London kind of gets hit and propelled into the end zone. And that just kind of goes to show that there's nothing that he can't do in this offense that he doesn't virtually understand. This offense can be as good and as great as he takes it. And although he threw for 515 yards, he never once pressed, and it never felt manufactured. It felt like within the flowing context of this game. And when asked Graham Harrell, have you ever been in a game as a coach or a player where you had 4 wide receivers go over 100 yards with this type of ease? He had to really think back, and quite frankly, I'm not certain that any team has that kind of firepower where you can go 4 deep and get that type of production.
Yeah, Keaton Slovis kind of joked after the game that any of us could throw for 100 yards to some of these wide receivers. I don't know if that's true, but it certainly kind of speaks to the talent that they have out there. And for me, the thing that really strikes me about Keaton Slovis is his ability to move the pocket, then set up again quickly.
Right.
And as he's moving in the pocket, it's technically scrambling. I mean, nobody's going to call him a scrambling quarterback, but boy, is he good at that. He sets up the pocket again somewhere else, and the whole time he's moving, his eyes are downfield.
Yeah.
It feels like so many of his yards come on plays like that. And then I think you need to talk about his toughness too. There's been a few times this year where he's been down on the ground. An early play, it didn't go for a touchdown, so it doesn't count as one of the 4 big plays in the game. But he hit Drake London, dropped a pass right in over it, and he took a shot on that play. I think his toughness is something. How does that kind of work in an offense, in a locker room, and really when you see a true freshman able to kind of take those hits, bounce back up, again, knocked out of the game, comes back in and finishes it? I think that's a statement.
At the college level, body language tells you everything. If you're looking for buy-in, oftentimes you look to all 21 other positions. Unlikely do you find that type of leadership, that type of strength and bravado coming from your quarterback. A humble guy whose story would resonate with a Hollywood great ending. A guy virtually comes out of nowhere and becomes a star overnight, but is humble enough, has earned the respect of his teammates, not by what he says, but by how he plays and how he responds and gets up off the ground. His body language resonates so well, he gets guys to play for them. When we talk about him manipulating the pocket, so do the receivers. When the receivers are running crossing routes, it's almost like they find the same pockets that he sees and they're in sync. Almost like 2 birds when they first see one another and they lock eyes. Going back to my days of watching Finding Dory, that connection that you see, that's what you see with these wide receivers. And again, you talk about the character that he shows. He got rattled, went to the sideline, came back, and didn't miss a beat. And this team embodies that type of persona that you're seeing from Keaton Slovis.
Okay, so we're deep into this. We've hit the offense.
Yeah.
We got to flip to the defense. This was a defense that came out and said, Joshua Kelly, the UCLA running back, who set just like Keaton Slovis set a record in this USC-UCLA game.
Yep.
He set the record last year for rushing yards in a USC-UCLA game. He went for 289. He needed 61 yards in this game to go to 1,000. That's a number that, as we found out after the game, every USC defensive player was very much aware of. They hold him to 45, and it was a big-time kind of sellout job to keep him down. What did you see from the defense? Because, again, this is a UCLA offense that wasn't great coming into this game. They put up 35 points, and toward the end, third quarter into the fourth quarter, they're kind of churning out 70-plus yard drives against the USC defense. So it felt a little good and bad. What did you see there?
I love the game plan. Once again, Clancy Pendergast, for all the criticism that I might have of him for the season, this was by and far his best game plan, to take away UCLA's #1 threat and force them to play left-handed. What I love is the run fits. UCLA did exactly what we thought they would do, end over slot. They had extra linemen in, but the difference is you got a more experienced Talanoa Hufanga, and Isaiah Palomoro. Those safeties, from their safety position, hovering down, being additional run fits in the running game, really kind of forcing Kelly to make hard runs. And as a result of that, you talked about the number 61, that was near and dear. So they took this game very personal. But it was the fact that USC's defense showed different looks. They showed a lot of man coverage at times, but then the next series, they made adjustments. They showed the same look, intentionally man coverage, but turned out to be zone. And it was those little wrinkles that kind of confused UCLA just enough. And the best defense is a great offense. The offense put up points and really kind of forced UCLA out of its element at times. And so there were times where I thought Chip Kelly for UCLA tried to match point for point with USC and threw themselves out of their game plan. But take nothing away. Hufanga, 18 tackles in front of my former teammate Troy Polamalu, who was honored on the sideline for being inducted into the College Hall of Fame. Kudos to him. He really stepped up. And it kind of makes you think about how many guys they have coming back. Only losing 7 senior starters to graduation, the sky is the limit on how good this program can be. Who will be leading this program is yet to be determined, but for one night in the Coliseum on a revenge game factor, to put up 52 points against UCLA, yeah, you gave up 35, but that 35 felt distant at times.
Yeah, a big statement, I think, for the USC offense, certainly. The USC defense, I think, like you said, there are things to build on. Got caught up a little bit, I think, in some of that sort of point-for-point thing when you got to go back out on the field so quickly. But everyone in that locker room will take this, 52-35 against UCLA. After what happened last year, after kind of the struggles of this year.
Right.
That's an 8-4 regular season for USC. And I think that they'll take that based on how it started. You win 5 out of your last 6 games. Now it's time to watch what Utah does.
Right.
There's 2 chances for USC to kind of slip into the Pac-12 championship game. They've got Arizona tonight as this is going up.
Yeah.
And then they've got Colorado the next weekend. So they'll sit and watch, but certainly a respectable bowl game that they're going to end up going to after, again, the start of the season that we talked about. And like you said, a lot coming back. You've got Keaton Slovis coming back. You've got basically, if every running back wants to come back, Michael Pittman is gone from the wide receivers, but if every one of those other wide receivers wants to come back, you've got a chunk of the offensive line. Defensively, Christian Rector, the defensive end, John Houston, the linebacker.
Yeah.
Those are your 2 seniors. Everybody else could come back. It feels like there is a ton of talent to work forward to going into next season.
And for every team, and it goes back to my 2000 season under Pete Carroll, halfway through the year, something clicked for us. And for us, it was a defining victory in Arizona when, at the time, current co-defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, Chris Richard, played corner, had a pick 6 that really kind of sealed the game for us. Perhaps it was the Notre Dame game, the way that they fought back into a game that they eventually would lose. But you kind of like the resilience of this group and the fact that they do fight for one another. But there is so much optimism around this football team under Keaton Slovis and what this offense can do if the offense remains intact with offensive coordinator Graham Harrell. Again, there's so many determining factors to see what this team will be. But at the very least, there is at least one more bowl game. And that's a slight possibility that this team, who would have ever thought that they could be in a position to potentially contend to have a rematch against Oregon for the Pac-12 championship. So, Erik, if you're not a USC fan, a lot of optimism going into the offseason.
Yeah, so many questions still about Clay Helton. Is he brought back? Do they go a different direction? And those are all questions that will be answered in time. But for one night, certainly a lot of celebration at USC here in the Coliseum for a big USC win, 52-35 against UCLA. For Darrell Rideaux, I'm Erik McKinney. WeAreSC.